Hi, everyone, and we're back with Linda
Hello.
Lee. What? Daisy?
Hello.
I said hello.
Oh,
Sorry.
hi, Daisy. Daisy.
Hi, sorry.
We've just been playing The Witcher. We've been talking about fairy tales and popular culture a little bit, which I think we might get a little bit more into in this interview, among some other things.
And behind the scenes, during the break, fervently talking about different types of tea and mug, and being very particular about the ways that we consume hot beverage.
I've got my favorite mug
So
on my
anyway.
desk, but it's empty.
I don't know if this one's my favorite. I got a thylacine one.
It is a
on my
holographic
favorite,
mug
but-
of the Thunderbird from
That's
Holiday World
real-
in Santa Claus, Indiana.
Wow. It's
Yeah.
exactly like I would imagine a holographic mug from the middle of Holiday, Indiana, or whatever.
Yeah.
Santa Holiday World.
Holiday
Santa
World,
Claus.
Santa Claus, Indiana. Thank you, Daisy.
Indiana.
Come on.
Yeah, sorry.
I know there's Southern
Wait. Santa Claus, Indiana?
Santa Claus, Indiana. There's actually
is
a
called
Southern
Santa Claus,
Indiana
Indiana.
in chat tonight. She might be the
put
expert
a
here.
link.
But I did go like every year. Oh man, I went like at least 7 or 8 times. Like
Yeah, you went a
twice in
lot.
college. I tried to go every year in grad school.
Yeah, if y'all haven't been to Holiday World,
Truly
I haven't.
the greatest
I haven't,
place
so
in
take
So
America.
me.
Holiday World is like an amusement park.
It's like the
Yeah.
first,
Type
the first, or at least the oldest extant amusement park in the United States.
Entertainment Center Park, whatever.
It is
Okay.
Yeah.
Halloween,
So-
Thanksgiving, 4th of July, and Christmas every day.
So I feel like, I could be wrong, but I feel like Hallmark should have some kind of rom-com set there.
Oh my God, yes.
Oh.
I said
Wait,
Thanksgiving.
isn't
Thanksgiving's my
Valentine's
favorite part.
no,
here
it's-
with Shaded. That's
It's like, isn't
that's where you
I mean,
get Thanksgiving dinner for
If you
lunch.
think Hallmark movies are only for Valentine's Day, you are so clearly wrong.
I was
They're
gonna say
mostly
Christmas.
Christmas.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Christmas in
I
July,
didn't mean to imply
Christmas
that.
at
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, Christmas at
Oh.
Christmas.
The Hallmark movies. I was thinking. I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking cards.
I think
Hallmark
I
Channel
don't watch
movies.
enough-
Absolutely.
Of
I
course.
might watch a few too many of those when I visit my parents because
Amazing.
my mom's always like, but this is a good one. This is a good part.
Yeah.
You have to watch this part.
You have to watch
Yes,
this one.
Mom.
I think if you did a Hallmark
yeah,
movie set in
that would make so much sense. Yeah,
it's
just
set in
having the
Holiday World, I
background,
think
just,
she
like,
would be making the fudge in Kringle's Cafe, and
Yes.
he would be like a technician on the Voyage, like the
Yes.
Mayflower themed roller coaster. And
Hallmark
then,
movie
and then they
about
meet in
romance.
line for
Budding romance at Holiday World.
Yeah, they
Oh
meet
no,
in
no,
line
no, no,
for
no.
the
You
Raven.
clearly have not watched enough Hallmark rom-coms because clearly she would be the younger child of the people who own Holiday
Oh, she would
World,
be a coach,
which is
yeah,
about
or
to go
cook.
bankrupt,
How
and
would they
she's
say
coming
it?
home to like
about to go
help out
bankrupt,
with
yes.
something. And the male protagonist is
Yeah.
like coming in, like some corporate overlord who's coming in.
Yeah, he's
and
trying
wants
to buy
like,
up the
buy them
place.
out.
He's from
Exactly.
the
Oh, there's-
corporate. Yeah.
It's Romeo
Oh,
and
he's
Juliet.
from
but
he's from Cedar
yeah.
Fair, and he's trying to buy
Yeah,
them
okay.
out. But it is like a family-owned amusement park. It's still like owned by
Yes.
the descendants of the people who
Yeah.
founded it in the 1800s,
Just
like
so
the
wild. Yeah.
the German
Santa Claus.
family.
Yeah. Fascinating. Anyway, I super want to go there. I would love to get a road trip to go just to experience it.
Oh my
so.
God! It truly
Anyway.
is fun.
Is
But-
there going to be an AFS within
In
driving
Indiana?
distance?
It would be if AFS was ever in like Louisville, it would be very close.
Yeah.
We had an AFS in Louisville already.
Oh, we did, and there was already an
Yeah.
AFS in Bloomington.
Yeah.
So
I mean, sometimes they circle back around, but
yeah. So it's
Takes
about
me-
what, hour and a half from Louisville, and 2 hours from Bloomington.
not bad. Anyway,
Way out in like the toe of Indiana. Well, hey, this has
Well,
been this has
yeah.
been when I said we were going to interview Linda. We were actually just going to talk to Linda about our favorite
Yeah.
amusement parks. So
the
what's
fairy
next?
tales and stuff
Cedar
and
Point?
nature parks and tea and mugs and
Hershey
all
Hershey
kinds
Park?
of, you know.
Hershey Park with a Pennsylvania, wasn't it?
Chocolate World.
Chocolate World.
Is
Went to
that
Chocolate World
four
with my
kinds of
sister.
chocolate?
Oh, so many more than 4 kinds of
Oh,
chocolate.
well, they only get 4 holidays.
Oh.
Unless you count
Yeah,
the
they only
water
have
park
4.
and safari as a holiday, and I don't want to approach
I
that
don't want
that
that,
colonial
yeah.
legacy right now. World's longest water
But-
coaster.
But I guess this is now going to mark the official beginning of your interview.
Daisy, do the intro.
Okay. Before we ask you the first question, though, I have to do something else that's really important, and that is thank our sleuthing team.
That's right.
Linda, you see me and Dom, we're chit-chatting. Some of the people who may or may not have been involved in the sleuthing meeting that we held when we were curating the questions for this particular episode. But what, Dom's giving me a face. Whenever Dom makes a face, I'm always like, am I saying something?
No, you're good.
Anyway, sleuthing team, yeah, you may or may not know, wink wink, curates behind the scenes stuff. You see me and Dom on the show, the audience sees me and Dom on the show, and the recordings, you hear my voice, whatever, I'm like the disembodied folk wise ghost. And you actually see Dom who's channeling that energy, and the guest who is trying to figure out what to do with all of this that we throw at them. So you might think it's just like a 2-person operation, but you would be completely mistaken, because we have an entire team of sleuth. They're very finally affectionately been awarded an emote that's sleuth. If you drop that, if you have them on our channel, if you're a subscriber, you get that. Basically, that was like a super long-winded and really silly way to say thank you, sleuthing team. It's not just me and Dom. If you hear a question that you like, Linda, if you hear something that you laugh at, something you're like, wow, how'd they figure that out? Don't thank me and Dom. Thank the sleuthing team.
And without
Save
Linda,
it at the
now
end.
I want to
it.
know who's on the sleuthing team.
Save it
I
at
want
the
to know
end.
because I want to know how difficult it was for them to do the sleuthing. When did they do the sleuthing? Was the sleuthing?
You know what? Here's a peek behind the curtain. Usually, it's Sunday nights. If people are ever curious, it's usually Sunday nights. It's usually
Sunday night. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did they do the sleuthing before or after I gave you the long list of answers to your questions?
I
gave it late.
Kind of around the same time. I think it around when it came in right around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you want to get into some of our questions for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's start it off. Okay. So, Linda, first question, big question.
Bring it on.
What is instructional design, and how did you make that transition, especially working at the Wharton School, famously not a folklore institution?
So, one quick sidebar, and then I'll actually answer your question.
Yeah.
The Wharton School, famously not a folklore institution. Correct. The Wharton School, nation's oldest business school, first business school. It's one of the 12 schools within the University of Pennsylvania, which until the early aughts was in fact a folklore school.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of the last 2 PhD students in folklore that was led into the folklore program at the University of Pennsylvania. But Wharton School, absolutely not a folklore school. For a while, I was getting some media requests to answer questions, to talk about superstitions and sports superstitions and eclipses and other sorts of things. And people kept calling the media department at the Wharton School, and they'd be like, we don't have any folklorists. I don't know what you're talking about. Thing where it would take it would take someone like 2 days of phone calls for someone to make their way to me and be like, are you the person they're looking for? Because you are correct. Wharton famously does not have any folklorists. Although some of our marketing professors do talk about things that touch on topics that folklorists are very interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And I will just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is instructional design, and how did I end up as an instructional designer?
Mm-hmm.
So instructional design can be a lot of different things in higher education. Folklorists make excellent instructional designers, and the University of Pennsylvania
I've noticed.
has many folklorists and folklore related folks in instructional design positions. Folklorists in higher education work on things like the learning management system. At Penn, we use Canvas. We help faculty use technology in their classes. We help faculty make decisions about what kinds of learning activities or assessments will be appropriate or useful for their classes. We help them sort of smooth out the rough bits of their courses. We also do things like technology training and more general technology consulting. And we help faculty who are, in particular, we help faculty who are either developing new courses or changing the modality of their courses to figure out how best to make their course work in whatever modality, whether it's an in-person, face-to-face course or a course that's going to be taught in an online synchronous or asynchronous fashion. The folks on my team do a little bit of all of that. Some people who are in instructional design positions in higher education will do a lot of like just one or two of those categories, but like my team works on everything. I was the first instructional designer that the Wharton School hired. This is going back to summer of 2015. And before that point in time, I taught courses on an adjunct basis at a whole bunch of schools in the Philadelphia area. I was teaching at the University of Pennsylvania. I was teaching at Philadelphia University, which is now Jefferson University. I taught one class at Cabrini. I was teaching writing at Rowan. I was teaching intellectual heritage or humanities, essentially, at Temple University. I occasionally taught folklore courses at University of the Arts. I taught like a bunch of different places.
Until University of the Arts, I was going to say these are all the schools I only know for being like 15 seeds in the basketball tournament, but keep going.
So I gotta say, being a full-time, part-time adjunct faculty member really sucks. It's a terrible way to live. No one should be adjunct faculty in that way. There were times when I was teaching at 4 different institutions in the same semester, times that I was teaching 6 different classes. When I was teaching 2 sections of the same class, sometimes one was online and one was in person. So it was a terrible way to live.
I really can't, like, just the technical skills of literally just like remembering what you need to do in a given hour a day.
I'm just thinking about all the parking spots.
Yeah. Oh, and all the parking is terrible, right? Yeah. Public transit is not when you're doing that. Public transit is not a thing you can do, even in a city with pretty great public transit. And a friend of mine who worked in Wharton Computing reached out to me to say, hey, have you thought about being an instructional technologist? I was like, say what now? And he shared a job ad with me, and I looked at it and I was like, are they looking for a programmer? That was my first reaction. I was like, I don't understand anything on this. I had a friend who had done corporate instructional design, and I showed the job ad to her, and she helped me work through some of the jargon that was in there. And I was like, oh, wait, I've done all of that. I've done all of that either formally or informally. And it's stuff I really like doing. So it was, stuff like I had spent a lot of time thinking about, if I was sick or if there was a snow day, how to take the lessons that I was doing and adapt them to a different modality to try to like accomplish the same sort of thing. I was especially at Temple, but not just at Temple, I was one of the people that my colleagues would go to answer questions about how do I do this in the LMS? And I really enjoyed talking people through, like, here's how you fix this thing, or you want to do something like that, you can totally do that on Blackboard. Because I taught at so many different places, I was skilled with a lot of different learning management systems and really skilled at thinking about how to take an idea and like make the most of what tools I had available. And I had taken advantage of every training opportunity that was offered to me. So I did the training in teaching online at Temple, and I'd been teaching online courses at Temple for a couple of semesters. I was going through the online teaching thing at Rowan University with the same goal, and was really enjoying it. And so I read this ad with fresh eyes, and I was like, oh wait, I would be good at that, and I would really enjoy it. And so I applied. I'm pretty sure that my boss, the person who's still my boss, did not have someone like me in mind when he hired me, although he will disagree with that. But no, he absolutely did not have someone like me in mind.
Sure.
Like he was expecting, someone who had was making a transition to instructional design from instructional technology, or someone who had like done an instructional design or instructional technology certification or master's program or something. He was absolutely not expecting a folklorist to apply for the job.
Yes. Yeah, that's probably true.
So I was the first instructional designer and the first folklorist that Wharton hired.
Hell yeah.
I am no longer
represent.
the only folklorist or the only instructional designer.
That's right. Friend of the show.
You paved the way.
I did. Well, I'm not sure that I've necessarily paved the way for the second folklorist, but I'll explain.
But yeah.
So I was hired as an instructional design project leader in 2015, and they have, at that point in time, I was the only instructional designer. I was part of a team that administered and supported Canvas, and I launched a whole bunch of things like a new TA training program and all sorts of stuff, trying to move a sort of mostly reactive team, so problems would come to us and we would try to fix them, to one that had much more proactive working with faculty in advance. Over time, they've made opportunities for promotion and advancement available to me, which I appreciate very much. I am now the director of instructional design on the courseware team at Wharton, and I lead a team of 3 other instructional designers, and I am incredibly proud of the work that my team does. We do a whole lot of work. We work really well with faculty,
so cool.
and it's awesome. And we get to work with some of the most amazing faculty. We get to develop learning experiences that are challenging and interesting and sometimes really technologically complex. And okay, I like totally drank the Wharton Kool-Aid here, but it is an incredible privilege to be working with faculty who are so talented and so committed to their teaching and their craft, and so inspiring to be able to work on learning experiences for students who are going to be doing really amazing things after they leave. Wharton grads are movers and shakers at all levels.
So cool.
For better or worse.
I was gonna say, they're presidents sometimes.
Here's the part where I've maybe in particular drank the Wharton Kool-Aid a little bit. I really appreciate that, although like every place, we always have constraints. Our primary constraint is not necessarily money. Like Wharton is a school that is really well resourced. So, if there's a tool, or if there's, technologies or whatnot that will either make our jobs easier or that will make learning experiences better, we can usually find a way to get that. The primary constraint that we face is how much time we have, how much energy we have. Yeah. And it is, especially over the last few years, where so much has happened, so much has changed. Technology has become so important in expected and unexpected ways in higher education that it's been, I felt really fortunate to be doing what I'm doing where I'm doing it right now.
Yeah, I
It
was
was a
like,
long answer to your question.
That was
But
great.
we now have
No,
the Wharton School
but-
now has 3 folklorists who work there.
Wait, who? So it's
3?
You-
Wait,
Yeah.
who else?
Okay.
You.
So me
You're
is one of them,
Uh-huh.
obviously. Geneva Harleen,
Friend of the
who
show.
was
Yeah.
friend of the show,
On the
who-
show
Yeah.
twice.
who was a guest,
Yeah.
on your show
Yeah.
previously. Geneva is a member of my team.
That's chat. That's Doki Doki Literature Club. If you remember those. Streams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did a 2-part. We finished it together. That was intense. Yeah. Anyway.
And the third folklorist, not an instructional designer, is someone named Wallace Haviland, and he did his PhD in folklore at Penn before my
Cool.
time.
Oh.
And he manages our public computing group.
Oh,
cool.
that makes sense.
So
That's
his-
cool. Yeah.
His team, well, not. I mean, you're thinking public computing in terms of like public folklore, not exactly the same thing.
Yeah. What do you
So
think?
he manages
Well-
his team manages
what?
the computers and our computer labs and the public spaces at Wharton.
Yeah, Daisy.
That's
Public
what I was-
computing.
that's-
Public computing is a thing
that's
from.
what
If you've ever read the 3-body problem, it's the thing they invent on the planet Trisolaris, where everyone stands in a row and raises their left or right hand to do math
Okay,
equations.
okay. I
That's
got
what public
it, I got it.
computing is.
I assumed it was the computer utilizing the human body to create ever larger computers over a series of time and space.
Of course, it's that. Of
anyway.
course.
No, that good clarification though. Yeah, I mean that was a great answer. I feel like I have
Because
more
it was
questions
very
for you.
much like the
I mean-
the only answer you could have given to that question was
Well-
like my long and meandering
Yeah.
career path led me to the right place at the
Yeah.
right time. Yeah, you know what I mean?
And
And I
Okay.
do really feel that way.
Mhm.
This is the first job that I've had in my life that feels like it uses all of me.
Yeah.
that's
It uses all of my
cool.
skills.
Yeah.
Huh.
It draws on all of my
Mhm.
experiences. I remember when I was telling Dan Benamos that, sorry, I've got like black
Hero.
pieces from my
Oh,
headset that are falling down,
But
and I'm
you
like,
sound
no, I
great.
don't
But
have
in
a
the
freckle
middle,
there.
but in the middle of that question, I remember thinking her mic sounds great. Anyway.
Yeah.
We had a little trouble trying to figure out which of the
Mhm.
microphones would work well, and the one that worked is the oldest one in the house.
So it goes.
That's
yeah.
right.
So when I was 5 years ago, when I was promoted to my current position, and I was telling Dan Benamos about this, and he, was like both really happy for me, also crestfallen that I never finished my PhD and didn't become, a great folklore professor. And I was like, Dan, I'm a folklorist every day. Like
yeah.
the
Yeah.
fact that I'm a folklorist is hugely important to my ability to be good at my job. And
Yes.
and that, like, he seemed to feel much better after I said that. But
Yeah.
but it's true. The talking with faculty
Mhm.
about their courses, ethnographic skills
Mhm.
turn out to be super, super, super helpful in trying to get faculty to talk.
Yes. Yeah, that I could see that for sure.
Yeah. Charles
I'm
Briggs
thinking-
learning how to ask.
Yeah, literally. You were making me think. I mean, you kind of like led into this too, but I would love to know how you consider, like, how you would like describe your folklore influence in the kind of work that you do on a daily basis, or like how it kind of like shapes the way that you understand the work that you do.
So that's a great question. I'll answer aspects of it, and I'll try to stop talking in a reasonable
we do have-
time frame.
Yeah, we have more
But-
questions for you, but I just
Also,
if
you
could give
said
us
you
No, no,
wanted.
no.
You said you wanted to hit 4 hours club. I'm giving you time.
I'm just saying, yeah.
So I mentioned already that ethnographic skills are really helpful in terms of talking with faculty. Some of our faculty, they come to us and they're looking for help and they know exactly what they're looking for. Others are like, I know that I need help, or I'm trying to figure out how to improve my course or my whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't know enough. They're not accustomed to talking about this. So getting them to open up and talk about the friction points in their course, or what it is that they're hoping to improve, can be a challenge. And 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 practice with ethnographic skills is really helpful there. Being someone who has spent a lot of time studying culture, studying people, thinking about what's important to people and how that impacts and influences what they think and what they do, that is like that at a baseline is probably the most important skill that I use on a daily basis.
You really made me think, like, when you're when you're coming up against like both instructors and students, like trying to figure out how to use this technology that they probably don't understand as well as you do in your role. You, as the person who knows a little bit more about the technology, also need to know what it's like to be a student. You need to remember what it's like to approach it from the front end, not the back end of the production. And like, I think that, yeah, being a folklorist and just like being attentive to those little like user experience things that just come with different ways of being in the world, like depending on what people's exposure to this kind of tech is, or to school in general has been. I can imagine that that's like totally helpful.
When I was still in grad school, so this was like when I was still in grad school at UC Berkeley, so this is going back more than 20 years. I during summers, I volunteered with an organization called Environmental Traveling Companions, or ETC, and a friend of mine got me involved with them. But they lead wilderness trips for children and adults, with both able-bodied trips and trips for groups with different disabilities.
Yeah, I think I've heard of this before. It seems really cool. Yeah.
And I was a guide in the rafting program. And when I went through guide school, I had been rafting like exactly twice before I went through guide school.
Oh my God. Well, I guess there's one way to learn how to do it really safely and well. Just jump right in. Yeah.
And so one of the things that I remembered really viscerally when I first got onto a raft was how unstable things felt, like what it felt like to be standing on that raft for the first time, and how hard it was to like not fall down. And in working with working with groups, who would come onto the river, and one of the things I loved doing the safety talks, and here's how you be safe on the river, and here's what will happen if you fall out of the boat, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I love doing those talks. But one of the things that was really helpful for me in sort of connecting with people who were going onto the river for the first time was how present in my mind the experience of standing on the raft my first several dozen times, and like not being sure if I was going to fall down as soon as I stood up. And that kind of mindset of sort of remembering and being aware of all of the places where I have found things really challenging, make it is one of the things that I keep in mind when I work with faculty, when I think about places where our students will might find different things to be challenging. So these are these experiences of putting yourself in someone else's shoes, of being aware of all of the places where it's so easy to lose your balance, and like what that feels like when you try to recover from that is I think these are important things to keep in mind.
I have like a whole like theory tangent I want to talk to you about embodied context, but that is for another conversation because we have more questions for you.
And I actually think that sets us up. I actually think that sets us up well for the next question, though.
Yeah.
If you're talking about well, the word you used was upset, but we're talking about getting people off balance a little bit. So, Linda, how do you like to upset student expectations and assumptions about how folklore intersects within their entertainment?
Okay, that is a great question.
It's the sleuths.
Sleuths.
But there are lots of ways in which I do this. And it depends in part on the class that I'm teaching.
Mhm.
So how I might do it in my folklore and the supernatural class might be a little different from how I do it in a fairy tale class, might be a little different from how I do it in an intro to folklore class. But one of the things that I love to do is destroy their childhoods.
Yeah.
Oh,
So sinister when you say it like that.
so students will come into a folklore class, especially a
true.
fairy tale class or an American folklore class, with ideas about fairy tales that are framed largely from Disney. And and so we talk about that.
I love the sinister affect you're giving off right now. It's very good.
One of the ones that I will love to talk about with them is, students are like, oh, I love this story and I love this story. And then they're like, I love Sleeping Beauty. And I'm like, oh, sweetie. I mean, I don't say sweetie because that is a little infantilizing, but I think it myself.
Your brain.
Yeah. Okay.
My brain. Oh, my sweet summer child.
Yeah.
And one of the first things I have them read is one of the oldest versions of Sleeping Beauty, The Sun, the Moon, and Talia, which I don't know how I don't know whether this is a version you all are familiar with.
I am, but go on.
But so this is in Bazile's collection, and in The Sun, the Moon, and Talia, which has a really direct connection to, like, you can trace the genealogy from Bazile's Sun, the Moon, and Talia to Disney's Sleeping Beauty with like only a couple of stops. Like you can, it's very, very easy to trace from Basile to Perrault and Grimm and Disney, like very clear. And in The Sun and the Moon and Talia, we've got this princess, Talia, who has, like the beginning of Sleeping Beauty. She's cursed when she's born because, pissed off fairy, etc. Despite the iconography of spinning wheels that's so prevalent in a lot of Sleeping Beauty stories, if you read The Sun, the Moon, and Talia, the old woman, there's Talia, when on her 16th birthday, sees this old woman walking around spinning yarn. So she's pretty clearly using a drop spindle to do this.
Right, because she's walking around with it.
She's walking around with a drop spindle, like not like the spinning wheel
cool
that I've
one.
got over there.
Yeah.
Not the spinning wheel that I've got over there that don't look too closely at it because it's not actually set up right now. Like, so I can't do a demonstration on it.
It's
alas.
off camera. I wouldn't have noticed.
Sheep reveal.
So if I could find a drop spindle, which I have many of, I don't know what box they ended up in, I could do a demo of that. But anyway, so she talks to the old woman. She touches the thing, falls asleep. Her father, the king, puts her in a chair and like leaves her there. Years go by, place gets overgrown, whatnot. This other king is out hunting, and his hawk or whatever like finds the castle, and he wanders in and he sees her sleeping in a chair, and he yells at her and tries to wake her up, but she continues to sleep. And in not my favorite translation, but my favorite translation of this line, he plucks the fruits of love.
That's a really fancy way to say a terrible thing.
Yes. Yes, it is a fancy way to say a terrible thing.
Wonder why that snuck by so many people. Nobody really thought that was bad. Oh my gosh.
And she continues to sleep.
Okay.
Hmm.
I know this story. Oh my
And
god.
he
It gets
leaves.
worse. It gets
And he
worse.
leaves.
Oh yeah.
If you
9
thought
months-
it would be. Yeah.
9 months later,
Spoiler alert, 9 months later. Yeah.
she gives birth to twins.
And then
9 months later, she gives birth to twins. And she, one of the twins, looking for a nipple, sucks out the piece of flax from her finger that has put her into the magical sleep. She wakes up and she's like, these 2 babies, where did they come from? They must be mine. And she names them the sun and the moon. Some time passes.
Okay.
Some time passes, and that other king is out hunting again.
Mhm.
And then his, falcon finds
Goes
the
back
castle. Then he's
there,
like, oh yeah, the castle with the sleeping girl. Let me
Yeah.
hit that again. So he goes inside to
Yikes.
find her, right?
He's so despicable.
Like you do.
Yeah.
Only this time he now finds her awake with 2 babies.
With
And he's like,
babies.
oh, these babies must be mine. And he says, come home with me.
It's all good.
She's like, okay, I guess that's what you do when your baby daddy shows up and,
Yeah.
you're a princess and suddenly you've got these 2 babies. Only, spoiler, guess what he's already got?
Life.
Yeah, he's already got a wife.
Oh my god.
And she is
too.
She is thrilled
Great.
that her husband shows up with this young girl and 2 babies. And he's like, check them out. They're mine. Aren't they so beautiful? And she's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, what? Absurd. So I can definitely see, like, being 17, 18, you're like, oh, my favorite movie when I was a little kid was Sleeping Beauty, and then you get that in a sort of like drawn,
Yeah.
like out, detailed, like just take a moment for every line to really absorb what that is saying. Yeah,
Yeah,
that is sinister. Despicable.
so I destroy my students' childhood memories
Yes.
at every turn. And my students are like, so all the fairy tales are really just about rape. Uh-huh. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. That one too. That one's
Mhm.
also about rape.
Mm-hmm.
Shall we now talk
Yeah.
about urban legends?
Yeah, and they're like, okay. If they thought fairy tales got turned around, I mean, legends can make you really depressed in a different way.
Well, I was gonna say, can we keep talking about fairy tales?
Yeah.
Because the next question might allow you to keep
This might
talking
be
about
good.
fairy
Yeah,
tales.
Yeah, it's good.
Linda, what are some notable representations of monstrous bridegrooms in contemporary pop culture?
Ooh, okay.
Just as long as we're on the topic.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got 2 notable ones in The Witcher.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not just The Witcher, but 2 notable ones in The Witcher. Dooney,
Mm-hmm.
Ciri's father, is one monster bridegroom. And I totally don't remember the beast's name in the 2nd season, but the one who is who, like, you look at him and he so totally looks just like Disney's Beast from Beauty and the Beast,
Yeah,
with like the tusky things, and he's in a complicated relationship with a Bruxa.
He's Nivellen.
Yes, him. So there are these 2 really great examples in The Witcher, but we got lots of others too. Like every vampire ever.
Yeah.
Edward,
Right.
Angel, Spike,
Yep.
probably also Lestat,
Yeah.
like all of them. Okay, so this one is not so despicable, but one of my favorite transformations was, did you ever see the movie Penelope with Christina Ricci?
Yeah.
She's a little piggy, right? She's a little
piggy. Yeah,
She's got a little piggy
yeah.
nose? Yeah.
And Reese Witherspoon is in it. I think Reese Witherspoon might
Yeah.
actually be the producer. I adore that movie. Also, a sort of monster bridegroom in reverse. But I adore that one. She is not despicable. Not at all.
I mean, I guess I'm like now thinking, sorry, a monster bridegroom in reverse, like Shrek.
Shrek is also absolutely one. Yes, Shrek
Sorry,
is
Yeah.
absolutely one.
had to do it. So we were talking about
Shrek
Shrek
definitely
today.
one.
You're
There's
here because
a
of Shrek. It's fine.
there's a reality TV show called oh my god, what the heck was it called? The ones with the nerds and the beautiful women.
Beauty and the Geek.
Beauty and the Geek.
Yep.
Beauty and the Geek, absolutely. So
You know the nerds with the beautiful woman? Yeah, Beauty and the Geek. That was like such a perfect
Yeah,
like
because Beauty and the
alternate
Geek.
universe like title for the show.
I
We're, like,
watched.
in
I
the 80s.
watched a streamer on Twitch watch Australian Beauty and the Geek. It was so
Oh my
good.
God. That
Yeah.
sounds
okay,
very funny.
the American one was not.
No, the Australian one was great. Like, you seen them? I'm gonna teach you physics or whatever.
Awesome.
So these are just like some examples.
Yeah. We have something to show you.
Whoa.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Yes. So I guess it's in two parts. So I guess the follow up question I want to ask is, how is this phenomenon part of the legacy of patriarchy? However, and I'm gonna throw this. I believe I'm able to throw this on screen. If you want to look at stream mods right now, we have a present for you, and it was made by Caitlin. I don't know if can chat see it? Yeah. And it's it is Dooney photoshopped over Ken saying, once I learned patriarchy wasn't about monsters at weddings, I lost interest.
Thank
so
you
good.
so much. That
so
is
good.
so delightful.
It's really good.
So very,
Oh my God.
very, very delightful.
Make that your class image for next semester for fairy tales.
That's amazing.
Hell yeah. Anyway. So yeah, patriarchy.
So, patriarchal legacy of monstrous grooms.
Okay. So where to begin?
Yeah.
So, okay. So when I destroy my students' memories of Disney's Beauty and the Beast.
Hell yeah.
Right. Like, so let's talk a little bit about the domestic violence here. And they're like, what are you talking about? And then once they see it, they cannot unsee it.
That's right.
Right. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and they do not thank me for this. I mean, I also, the first time I watched it, totally wanted, would be willing to put up with the Beast to have access to that library, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, really, let's face it.
Yes.
Invisible servants and the most amazing library in the world. Like, I will maybe take that deal. Maybe. I mean, I would do a lot for a library, really.
Yeah.
But, you know, he separates her from her family. She ostensibly has a choice, but like not really.
Yeah,
like there's, I'm going to hurt your family if you don't agree to this thing.
Yeah.
And in terms of the legacies of patriarchy, one of the things that we see is the willingness of women to agree to bargains where they give up themselves for, you know, financial gain for their family or peace between rivaling kingdoms, right? Like women are for, I won't say for the history of the world, but, you know, for a lot of it.
Yeah.
Women have been pawns in these exchanges, and whether they have agreed completely willingly or agreed because there's been lots of pressure on them to agree is a little bit hard to say. We see in examples of monster bridegroom stories some of this pressure that happens in King Pig, which is one of my favorite versions of a monster bridegroom story. The prince is born as a pig and like with a pig head. And what we see here is what he decides it's time for him to have a wife. And in the Pig King, so this is Straparolla's story, and he wants to get married, and he wants to marry a princess because he's a prince, right? Like he's the son of a king and a queen. And the first princess he wants to marry, she says no. And the queen, his mother, puts a lot of pressure on her to do this thing for her family, right? Like, so we see examples in the texts themselves of the kind of pressure that is put on girls to accept marriages that they don't want to accept. Yeah. Now, he knows she doesn't want to marry him, and he ends up killing her because, that's what happens in the story. The same thing happens in Hans My Hedgehog, which gets me up over to Dooney.
Yeah.
Dooney. So there's a set of monster bridegroom stories that follow a different pattern from Beauty and the Beast. So there's a tale type 425, The Search for the Lost Husband. Cupid and Psyche is one of the most well-known subtypes of The Search for the Lost Husband. Beauty and the Beast is 425C in the tale type index, so it's like part of a variant of that same basic tale type. We move a little bit further along in the 400Zs, and we get to a set of related stories that have that have a very similar flavor, but they're all a little bit different. And we see King Pig, or the Pig King from Straparola. We see King Wyvern, which is a Danish version, which is very similar. And we see Hans My Hedgehog. And in all three of these stories, we see male protagonists who are who have some kind of beast form. Unlike Dooney, who is a hedgehog during the day and turns human at night. In these stories, they're just wyverns or hedgehogs or pigs, and they don't transform until the curse is lifted. In these stories, and I'll talk about Hans My Hedgehog because it's the closest to Dooney's story here.
It's such a wild story.
It is absolutely a wild story.
The first time I heard it, I was like, "This just keeps going, huh?" Okay,
it's like there's a lot of what the fuck with this story. Like, period. There's a lot of what the fuck, and so in Hans My Hedgehog, what happens in Hans My Hedgehog is there's this couple and they want to have a child, and they make an imprudent wish, like. A lot of fairy tales are about the desire for children, and like this is something that we see with Yennefer in The Witcher as well, where she really wants a child and like goes to all these lengths to try to have one. So the mom makes an imprudent wish. I want a child, even if it's a hedgehog, and poof, you got to be careful what you wish for, because she has a child and it's a hedgehog, and like. He goes out and makes his way in the world, and it's wild. Like, he goes out and he plays the bagpipes and rides a rooster, and it's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So there's this like question.
I have a question. Is he a hedgehog, or is he half hedgehog, half man?
Hedgehog. Sometimes he's half hedgehog, half man. Both, right? Half hedgehog on the top. Like, there are different multiple existence and variation. Like, yeah.
I didn't know if there was one that was like more common or not. Anyway.
More common is probably hedgehog on the top, right?
Sure, okay.
Yeah.
Because that makes it easier for him to ride the rooster.
That's the image I have that I think is from like the Jack Zipes Brothers Grimm. Yeah.
So he's like off in the woods, and this lost king sort of wanders by, and he helps the king find his way, and in compensation, he asks for the king's daughter. And the king's like, sure, whatever. And this happens 3 times. So like 3 kings, 3 daughters. Because, 3 times, fairy tales, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know about this stuff.
Yeah.
And in some versions, it's the thing that it's the motif of the thing that you first see when you get home. and it turns out to be his daughter. In some cases, it's like a direct exchange for the daughter. So when he decides it's time to marry, he goes to the first king's kingdom, and his daughter is like, "Oh hell no!" And the dad's like, "No, you're gonna marry him," and the daughter's like, "But no," and the father's like, "But yes," and she's like, "Okay, I guess," and then they go off.
Something
He
terrible
rides away with
happens.
her, and
Something totally
he
normal happens.
pierces her with his quills and leaves her bloodied for dead.
Just regular.
She doesn't
style.
die. In fairness,
Normal.
in Hans my Hedgehog, he usually doesn't actually kill her.
Huh.
In King Pig and King Wyvern, the monster bridegrooms do actually kill the brides. Hans my Hedgehog doesn't always kill her. Sometimes he just pierces her with his quills and leaves her for dead.
Yep.
So she's humiliated. She's used.
Mm-hmm.
She's been pierced by his quills.
Yes. Yeah.
Just in case you didn't get the rape metaphor there, right?
Yeah.
And then he does the same thing to the second bride.
Yeah.
The third bride is like, "Sure, I'll marry you," and then like disenchants him, and they marry and they live happily ever after. And I read this story and I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, and you
it's
see the
so
same thing
messed
play
up.
out. You see the same thing basically play out in King Wyvern and in King Pig.
It's just
but in those the rape metaphor isn't quite as bloody, but there's like actual death. In King Wyvern, the word that's used is like often translated as shudder, but the word that's used according to Bengt Tolbeck. According to Bengt Tolbeck, the word that's used is one that translates that has a sexual context.
interesting. Mm-hmm.
So the implication about sexual violence and like lack of consent obviously is there in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I read these stories and I'm like, what the hell? Like, how does this guy get to be the hero?
Mm-hmm.
How is this the male protagonist? How does he get to do this and still get a happily ever after?
And like just be told like it's no big deal.
Right?
Like it's told commonly enough
it was 1 and 2. Yeah, we're waiting for 3 anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just told so like ordinarily, like no big deal. Like as though this isn't yeah. So this doesn't like harm people, and like fiction informs the way that people behave and etc. I don't know, like the fuck.
So this idea of men who feel entitled to sexual access to women, not a new thing, right? Like not a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
It is a thing that continues to be present in a lot of our media. I am old enough to remember the really skeevy movies from the 80s because those were the ones that I watched when I was a teenager. Like, rewatch 16 Candles now and tell me what you think.
I was gonna say Revenge of the Nerds. Yeah.
Or Revenge of the Nerds, right?
Oh
like, exactly. Tell me what you think. Like, I am encouraged by the fact that we're now like calling out that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that it's not present. It's still obviously present.
Yeah.
But it's not presented uncritically in the same way that it had been for so very long. That gives me a little bit of hope. Tiny wee bit of hope.
But yeah. I get it.
Well, I don't want to change the subject to something happier, so let's just get darker.
Okay.
So can we talk about Dooney for a second?
Yeah, do it.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right. So not every version of Hans my Hedgehog is like, is this rapist, murderous horrible person, right? In some versions, he's just like, if you look at Jim Henson's The Storyteller, he's just a hedgehog and then he's
Yep.
not, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's not as bad. So there are some versions where it's like, oh, look, he was cursed and now he's not.
Yeah.
And the first time I watched The Witcher, my first watch through of The Witcher, I was like, oh, look, it's a hedgehog. We've got a version of Hans my Hedgehog here. Like, whoa. And then, you know, Dooney's curse gets broken and we know that he's Cyrilla's dad. And it all seems fine. And then we learn that he and Pavetta like got lost at sea and are dead, right? And I was like, oh, look, it's the exception. This Hans my Hedgehog is not actually a bad dude.
Yeah.
Oh no, he's totally a bad dude. He is totally a bad dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turns out he is in fact a murderer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad dude.
Bad dude.
Great fake
And-
out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the beast guy in the Beauty and the Beast,
Mhm.
whose name I'm still
Novella?
blanking on. Novella, yeah.
Yeah.
We learn in that episode what he did to be cursed.
Mm-hmm.
He raped the princess of a temple, and that was the thing that got him cursed. So, you know, like these ideas about monster bridegrooms who feel entitled to sexual access of women. Like, whoa, okay. There's no subtext here. It's all just straight text. Like, no subtext. Subtext is not needed. Straight up text.
Yeah.
So I like had this moment where in going back to the episode where we first meet Dooney, where I was really hopeful. I mean, we learn that he's cursed. We never learn in that episode why he was cursed. And I don't know if we do actually learn that. Do either of you know if we learn why he was cursed? Did your sleuthers find that information out? Or did your sleuthers
Maybe.
assume that I would know the answer to that question?
Probably.
Maybe. I'm trying to think. I don't remember. It's been a minute.
I don't remember
remember.
either. I'm like,
I think I want to say it is, or it's at least referenced to, but I'm not sure if there's a quest involved.
in any case,
I think it's in like book
bad
6 or
dude.
7,
He's
yeah.
clearly a bad dude. It's like the when we look at the prevalence of fairy tales and fairy tale transformations in contemporary popular culture, Cinderella is pretty clearly like the most common one. Like it is like everywhere.
Mhm.
But Beauty and the Beast is a kind of close second.
Yeah.
And when we look at sort of the range of monster bridegroom stories, like we see different plot lines in versions that follow the search for the lost husband path, or the like, King Wyvern or Hans my Hedgehog sort of plot. But the sort of central markers that we see around these monstrous male characters, like those don't change very much. And it's like super disheartening.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very pervasive. And it's pervasive on accident too sometimes.
Yeah, well no, I mean
Like,
because
sometimes
it's
I think it's like one
because
of
it's
the
just
things with
part of
fairy
the
tales.
air that we breathe. And
Yeah, and like they just are like, what would be a catchy story? Oh, something like this, and then they're telling a fairy tale and they don't even know it. You know,
a really skeevy fairy tale.
a very skeevy fairy tale. Yeah.
Do you want a later Witcher books spoiler about the curse?
Yes.
Okay, so It was
I have no problem with
okay.
spoilers.
It was a
Okay.
pretender to the
I'm
throne of Nilfgaard. Go for it.
Oh, I was just gonna say I'm a folklorist. I usually know how the stories
Yeah,
that
yeah,
I
true, true,
read
true.
Yeah,
are gonna turn
true.
out. So
Yeah.
spoilers do not disappoint me or anything. So go
Yeah.
on.
It was a pretender to the throne of Nilfgaard who was torturing him when he was the prince, and they thought because his name Emir sounded like the elven word for hedgehog, the same way that Urcheon is like the Middle English word for hedgehog. They found a way to translate that in all languages, that he was going to find a way to torture him without killing him and like beset his body with spines. And like his father had to watch like the spines erupt from him, you know? And then when he comes to his throne, he finds that wizard and says, "Well, your name sounds a lot like the word deep fried in Elven." Huh? And like has him roasted alive in front of him. Like, I can be cute too.
So that's a way better cursing. Like that is a much more sympathetic curse story than
But the whole story he tells Geralt is a lie as to not give away his identity. They're like, "Oh, since birth, my father, whatever." Like he tells him, it's just a straight up lie. He was 13 in a palace intrigue plot. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
welcome.
the later spoilers.
Yeah.
Oh, that
Very good.
is what that's when the series is getting real crazy, and what Ciri and Galahad are hanging out. Anyway, finds herself on our Earth. Anyway,
Yep.
you want to get dark some more.
Yes.
Okay, what are some of the more memorable real world examples of gruesome and grotesque fairy tale bodies? You know where
okay.
this is going.
Huh? So what Dom is asking about is an exhibit at the Mutter Museum.
That's right.
That I co-curated with my friend and colleague Anna Doty, who is the curator of the Mutter Museum. I'm not going to get into this, but the Mutter Museum there's currently a lot of controversy around the Mutter Museum. There's some folks who are unhappy about the human remains that are on display there, and the fact that when a lot of the specimens in the Mutter Museum's collection were accessioned in the 19th century, policies around consent for what would happen to your body after death were very different from our ideas about this today. And so there's the current head of the Mutter Museum has taken down like all the online materials and most of the YouTube videos and all sorts of other stuff. There's this kind of a controversy around what's going on with the Mutter Museum. But I'm not going to like wade into that. I'll just acknowledge that that's a thing. And if any of you are like about to go and like, Google the Mutter Museum, you're probably going to find some information about it. So
Fascinating.
I'm just going to like identify the elephant in the room and then move on.
Cool.
But back in 2010 or 2011, I was talking with my friend Anna I was talking a group of my friends about some of the things that were happening in 2012 to celebrate the 200th anniversary of the publication of the Grimm's Kinder- und Hausmärchen, or the Grimm's fairy tales. Their collection of fairy tales was published in 2 volumes in 1812 and 1815. And I was talking about like who we were trying to get to do the Stith Thompson lecture at AFS in 2012, and we were talking about like all sorts of other stuff, and I was talking about like
New Orleans
Grimm's conference and like all this other stuff that was going on sort of across the world. And then the next week, Anna we were at game night. My friends have been doing game night for like 20 years on Thursdays.
Hell yeah.
And
so cool. Hell yeah.
And the next week Anna came to game night and she's like, "Linda, I have an idea to pitch to you. Tell me what you think." And she was like, so I'd like us to work together on an exhibit that takes a look at, some of the real world bodies and some of the other stuff in fairy tales. And I was like, yes, count me in. At that time, we didn't really know exactly what it was going to look like. We spent a lot of time brainstorming and thinking about what would make sense to represent. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work. When I was supposed to be working on my dissertation, I did this instead.
Funny how that happens.
I don't want to talk about it.
I wrote a musical.
And
I did this.
And the original plan was to have this exhibit up from 2012 to 2015. Here we are in 2023 and the exhibit's still up, which is really hugely exciting. More than a decade of people have come through the Mutter Museum and had a chance to see this.
That's so cool.
I know.
So to
so
answer
cool.
your question about some of the real world analogs, we've got in that exhibit, we tried to highlight some of the themes that touched on issues of magic and medicine, because the Mutter Museum is a museum that's part of the College of Physicians of Philadelphia, and it has been around since the middle of the 19th century, and it has always had a teaching mission. When it was first started, it was for people who were physicians or who were training to be physicians to be able to see what the human body looked like under a wide range of circumstances. The Mutter Museum today still has that same teaching mission, although the audience that it serves is a much broader audience. And if anyone is in Philadelphia or, visits Philadelphia, I do strongly encourage that you visit the Mutter Museum. It is really a spectacular place. Also, it's a very interesting place in that it looks a little bit like a museum about 19th century museums. So that's also kind of cool. It's a little bit of a meta museum too.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So we wanted to highlight stories from the Grimm's collection. We wanted to highlight a range of stories that included ones that people would be really familiar with, as well as ones that people would not be familiar with. So there's Sleeping Beauty and Cinderella. So there's and Hansel and Gretel, so some familiar stories there. In the section of the exhibit that focuses on Cinderella, I'm sorry, not Cinderella. The section of the exhibit that focuses on Cinderella. What is the most common part of Cinderella that you think of, when you think of Grimm's version? Do you remember what the
feet?
The feet. Yes, the feet. The feet. Right? The feet.
No.
Yeah.
So
that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
In Grimm's Cinderella,
yeah.
Cinderella has very small feet, right? No one else can fit into her shoes, but the stepsisters leave off toe and heel to try to make it work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that is on display, there are cultures that have prized very small feet.
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of any of them?
Uh-huh.
What one can you think of?
Middle Ages China?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Middle Ages China.
You cut out there. Your noise gate was too powerful.
Sorry, I said not just Middle Ages China.
Okay.
But so what I assume Dom is referring to here is the practice of foot binding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And foot binding is this really problematic practice that is no longer practiced today, but practiced recently enough that there are still people alive women alive who had their feet bound.
Ow.
So there are still people who are walking around, badly walking. Walking badly, with bound feet.
Yeah.
So what happens with foot binding is this is done to girls at a very young age, around between 3 and 5.
Mm-hmm.
Any older than that, and it's too late to do it. But what happens is the foot. So if this is the foot, the toes are curled under, and the foot is bound. And every few days, the bindings are undone, the foot's washed, and it's done more tightly until essentially the foot is curled over, and it stays like that. And a bound foot looks a little bit like a high-heeled shoe. It's about the size of a cigarette box, and looks a little bit like like if you look at it, it looks a little bit like a foot that's in a high-heeled shoe.
Yeah.
There's an example of a preserved, desiccated bound foot that is part of that exhibit, and along
Fascinating.
with some information that provides information about foot binding and the prizing of small feet and sort of and the connection to the fairy tale.
Is there also just a foot of a person in today, like like from this time, the present day at some point, that is like with a heel, like a high heel shoe
So
or like any other
there is
kind
an
of,
image. There's an image that sort of
'cause
shows
that's like,
the foot,
yeah.
the bound foot, and a high heeled shoe to sort of
Okay.
show the similarity between that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering, because it's like, I mean, we're always adjusting our feet.
Right.
I'm thinking of all of the like granola barefoot people, and like the shoes that are like run sock.
Yeah.
They're like, to like
Yeah. This is
adjust
definitely
your
not
feet.
that.
This is the
Yeah,
opposite
no, this is the opposite
yeah,
of that.
Yeah.
of that
Um,
that book about
How to take
yeah,
action against this.
people in Guatemala who run barefoot and how we should all eat granola and take
Yeah,
our shoes off. I
wild.
remember that. Yeah.
The part of the exhibit that focuses on Snow White, when you think about Snow White, like what's the most memorable bodily related thing in Snow White other than like corpse in a glass coffin?
Don't tell me don't tell me it's skin.
I was gonna say, is it a heart?
Don't tell me it's skin.
Okay, so it's neither of those things really. Although there is actually a lung, because the evil queen sends the hunter out with Snow White to like retrieve her heart and lungs, which she wants to have boiled with salt. We do actually have some preserved lungs that are part of that one.
Yeah.
But one of the things when Snow White is with the dwarves and the evil queen shows up disguised as a little old lady, she sells some things to Snow White, one of them being a hair comb that like pricks her, and then the dwarves take that out and she comes back to life. One of them is a stay lace or a corset, which gets tied too tightly and she collapses, and then they take that off. And then the third one, of course, is the poisoned apple that she eats, and then is in the semblance of death. So one of the things that's on display is a liver. This is a wet specimen, so it's a liver in a jar, and the liver has this crease in it from where it has been damaged from long-term corset use.
Oh. Crease.
Oh.
What a gross word.
That's fascinating.
Wow.
So
Wow.
very, very real world body that shows the kind of accumulated damage from, from corseting, from wearing a corset, and like sort of specifically calling attention to that kind of effect on the body.
Yeah.
One of the other stories that we highlight in there brings up the themes of the kinds of accumulated damage that happens over time, is the story of the Three Spinners, which is a lesser known story in Grimm's collection. It's a wonderful story, which has this girl, like much like the start of Rumpelstiltskin. We've got a girl whose mother talks about, how much spinning she can do, and this girl cannot spin, like not a thing she wants to do. but the king is like, well, if you spin all the stuff, I'll marry you. And she's like, what the hell? I can't spin all of this stuff. And these three old women come by and they're like, hey, if we help you out and do all the spinning for you, will you invite us to your wedding? And she's like, hells yeah. I will absolutely take this deal. You want to come to my wedding? You've got it. And so they do all the spinning. And she gets married and she follows through. She absolutely invites them to the wedding. There's like, this is not Rumpelstiltskin at all. This is like, she's like, yes, you're my people. Totally come to the wedding. And the king sees them and he's like, boasting about his wife who's done his new bride who's done all the spinning. And he's like, wait, your three ladies there, they're kind of disfigured. One has this big droopy lip and one has this giant thumb and one has this giant foot. And they're like, yeah, this is from a lifetime of spinning. This is from licking the flax and this is from like pressing the flax with my thumb and this is from treadling. And he's like, hells no, my bride is not going to do any more spinning because I don't want her to look like that. And she's like, yeah, these are totally my peeps, keeping them, love them. And yeah, so that part of the exhibit shows some objects that highlight the accumulation of wear and tear on the body.
Wow.
So we try to show some things like that. There's one of the other lesser known stories that we highlight is a story called The Three Army Surgeons. And in this story, there are these three surgeons in the army, and
I remember this
and they they're kind of a little sneaky. And one of them, like, they have this trick where they can like remove their arm and then put it back on, remove their eyes and then put it back in, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they end up like not removes his hand, but the hand gets stolen and the eyes get stolen. And so they end up getting replaced with cat's eyes and like a thief's hand. And like, hilarity ensues because this is a funnier fairy tale. And so that part of the exhibit has some specimens, has a cat's eyes, and highlights the ways in which what was known about human anatomy at the time in the 19th century some of it was assumed to be interchangeable with animal anatomy, and so it sort of highlights some of some comparative anatomy between humans and animals.
Daisy, you know this one. Do you realize how you know this story?
Why?
Do you remember the name of the coroner in The Wolf Among Us?
Oh no, it's been so long.
He's Dr. Swinehart. And
okay.
he is the fairy tale world. He used to be the fairy tale world's greatest surgeon, and now he's the coroner in
the coroner.
Fairy Tale Village. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Oh my god. We got a great question in the chat.
You know what? Ask that question as we get ready. Yes, we transition into the funsy questions.
Yeah. So in the chat, Death Laura says, chat question. Does Linda have thoughts about the musical Once Upon a One More Time?
Do you know the musical Once
Upon a One More Time?
Once Upon a One More Time.
I don't know Once Upon a One More Time.
Okay, well, the follow-up on the comment is Brain thinking about how the patriarchy is addressed in adaptations, but also how it's being applied to Britney, a real life person.
It's the
Britney Spears,
Spears fairy tale musical.
Fairy tale musical.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to check this out. I'm
really
not familiar with this.
Too. Once Upon a One More Time, yeah.
I've pulled up a Wikipedia page with it on.
Hell yeah!
So I'll check that out later.
Well, other funsy questions we have for you too.
All right, let's get into these fun questions.
Yeah.
Okay, Linda, which is your favorite of the invisible cities?
They're all Venice.
Equally all Venice.
Love it.
I'll accept that. Okay.
I mean, who knew about my Calvino fascination?
The sleuths. The sleuths know about your Italo Calvino fascination.
Okay, bring it on.
No, is your answer for all of them, and they're all Venice?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yes, because I mean, do you not know about Invisible Cities? I mean okay, they're all Venice. All of the cities are Venice. They're all Venice.
Yeah.
Yes. I feel like you're looking for a different answer.
I don't know.
I think I was, but that's like the correct way of asking or answering that question then.
Okay, so I feel a little bit like someone prepped you with an awesome question and didn't tell you what to expect.
Yep.
For an answer.
Go for it.
So, I mean, Invisible Cities is. Hold on.
I have listened to the audiobook. I totally know this.
I don't know this.
It's she's about to get into it. It's a really cool book.
Hell yeah.
Invisible Cities is it. All right,
Yeah.
so this is my Italian copy, not my English copy. So, Le città invisibili, but they're all Venice. Like, there isn't a different invisible city that's not Venice. They're all Venice. And it's Marco Polo who's talking with Kubla Khan, and they're talking about cities, and Marco Polo is describing all of these cities, but they're all Venice.
The same
they're all
city.
Venice.
They're doing.
There's no other possible answer. There's no other possible answer to the question. I don't know how to answer it other than Venice.
I think Venice. Yeah,
That's good. Yeah,
I would have also accepted like an even more conceptual answer. Like your answer could have been like the idea of semiotics or something.
No.
Okay.
Just Venice.
Great.
I mean, ideally, not necessarily in the summer, where even if it's invisible, you will still smell it.
Yeah.
That's why the dolphins aren't returning. Okay.
So bring on the fun question. The rest of the fun questions.
Next one, if you could add one more letter to IDEA to make a new acronym, what would it be?
L, ideal.
Oh, that's a great.
That is a really good one. See, I
was thinking like ideas.
I was thinking media.
Oh, media. Yeah. Yeah.
What's the L stand for?
Yeah.
So currently, now I'm so very curious about all your sleuths. So, IDEA. I am part of the IDEA courseware team, and IDEA is instructional designers and educational architects. And I need to think a little bit about how the acronym would change to have an L at the end. So I'd need to think about that, but it would definitely be an L.
Can you add an acronym? Can you add the first letter of an acronym to an acronym? Because it would be funny if it was like, and architects, LOL. I don't think that's how acronyms work.
Death Loris in the chat suggested learning.
We need to change it in some. We need to change the other words up in some. Other kind of way. But learning is not a bad place to start to thinking about it. But I need to think about it. This would need like a coffee brainstorming session, I think.
Yes.
To come up with a good actual answer.
Hell yeah.
All right.
God, I wish there was a way to answer this to incorporate, or to ask this to incorporate it. I'll just ask it. Okay. When did you first become the world's foremost advocate for the proper use of the Oxford comma?
My first job out of college was as a copy editor, but it definitely happened before that.
Okay.
So
It's been a while.
it's been a while, yeah.
And
I mean,
Yeah.
do I have to give you a
Yeah.
year?
No.
Probably
No,
No,
1988.
that makes sense. Yeah.
somewhere, yeah, late 90s.
Perfect.
You've been leading the crusade. Long before, what I'm getting is long before Vampire Weekend put out that song. You
Yeah.
were already
Yes.
dying on that
Yes.
hill. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. And last of the fun ones, other than Beauty and the, you can't pick Beauty and the Beast. Other than Beauty and the Beast, what folktale would work best for a torrid teen romance show?
Oh,
Let's say
well,
CW good, to quote you from earlier.
Yeah, CW good.
Little Red Riding Hood, absolutely.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, probably. Yeah.
Sir,
That's
yeah,
good. Yeah.
Like without a doubt,
That's
Little
the
Red Riding
answer.
Hood.
Yeah.
he's in love. She's capping.
I mean,
That's
we've got
awesome.
like the woods, we've got like,
Mhm.
coming of age, we've got, depending upon which version of Little Red Riding Hood we're talking about, if we're in the story of grandmother, we've got some sexual experimentation. Does not have to be this thing that, ends in death or being gobbled up
Yeah.
by a wolf. Like,
Yeah.
definitely Little Red Riding Hood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just. Do you think we can get like Zendaya attached to it or what?
That would be amazing.
Oh my God, that would be
right. That's
so
what I'm
cool.
picturing as you're
So
describing it.
amazing.
Yeah.
So amazing.
That would be awesome.
All right, we've got
Oh.
one last thing we want to do.
Yes.
Right, Days?
and I suppose it's a final question. Have you ever made a tier list before?
No?
Wonderful.
Let's set this up.
So tier lists are something that come from fighting games. They're a way to like rank different characters or fighting styles or whatever. But on the internet, they have like expanded, and now people use them to rank things in everyday life, which is like folklore, right? So we have curated a tier list for you to complete with us on a scale from S to D. S is like above A, superior, A plus plus. D is like dumpster fire, like garbage, like the worst
And
tier.
what's between S and D?
A, B, C.
C.
Oh, okay. So S,
So-
so A, B, C, D, but S is
S.
above A.
101 and
Yes.
above. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, Dom can tell you more about what we've curated here. For
We
you.
have curated.
Right.
We've not just come up with a tier list, but we
Okay,
have
so
assembled
is
the
this
Eras tour.
Is this question? Are you screen sharing? Do I need to see this
Yes.
somewhere?
If you haven't hit watch stream.
Yes.
Watch stream. Okay.
Yes, and
Back
then
over there. Romance novels. The era tour. Okay.
Yes. So
Ooh.
in the
yes,
in the
So,
style of the
Clearly, you've been sleuthing a lot. Bring it on.
this is so powerful.
in the style of the Taylor Swift Eras tour, we have
Oh my God.
the eras
Oh
of
my
romance
God.
novel covers.
Oh my God.
And
Okay,
you have to
okay.
rank the major
Okay, so-
epochs of romance novel covers.
Okay, so Jane Eyre is. Wait, do I
This
have to
Jane
do all
Eyre.
of
This
them?
is Jane Eyre standing in for like embossed, like gold embossed on leather books. So you know
Okay,
what
well,
I mean.
Jane Eyre is not a romance novel.
That was the one I believe our sleuth said, like Jane Eyre embossed in gold. But it's like the gold, but we're more going for like a stylistic thing here.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So-
more it's like Era 1 is like leather bound book with gold embossing. The romance
Okay.
novel.
Oh, so great epics of titillating book jackets.
Book
These are book
jackets.
jackets.
Yes, these are all book
so we're-
jackets.
Oh, okay. So not the books themselves.
Not necessarily the books themselves, but
it could.
you
influence
are literally
the-
judging a book by its cover.
Okay, well, because I gotta
Yes.
tell you, Red, White, and Royal Blue is a delightful romp, but it's a terrible cover. And if we're talking about titillating book jackets, I mean, I loved Red, White, and Royal Blue. but it's going to be way down there on D because it is not a titillating.
So we were
book
actually
jacket.
calling, the red, white, and royal blue. We were calling that one flat millennial design, and then we also jokingly called that forced DEI or mandatory DEI video is what we called that that book jacket style.
There's like way, way, way better contemporary book jackets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you want to get into this? I have them in chronological order. Do you want to run down these chronologically?
Okay. So Jane. Okay. Right.
Not
Now
necessarily.
there are 5 letters. There are 5 letters, but more than 5 book covers here.
Yeah.
Yes. That
They
means
rank-
there's also top of S, top of A. You know what I mean?
So I do have to rank everything.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, right. Okay. So, all right. As far as titillating book covers, I have to say, Gentle Rogue.
Yes.
I mean, everyone
Gentle
loves a
Rogue-
Lindsay. Put her at the top.
We're calling
'Cause, you know-
Gentle Rogue here. We're calling this like
Because that's
like
the
a
clinch
glossed
cover.
Fabio. Yeah.
Yes, that is like. I mean, we might get something higher than that, but that's.
Okay, so we're putting Gentle
Oh my
Rogue. We're going
God.
right ahead. The sort of when is this? Like late 80s, early 90s?
This is like a-
mid 80s,
Mid 80s,
reminds
maybe
me of
early
Mid
manga.
80s. We have
When
the most muscular man in the world, Norman Rockwell, with an open shirt.
Yes.
When was Gentle
Sometimes
Rogue
as a
published?
horse.
Gentle Rogue was published. Oh, it was 1990. Really?
Okay.
I thought for sure it was
Interesting.
80s. I mean,
Hmm.
it was
That's
definitely.
it's close. It was in production in the 80s, so.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay,
let's
so we have
see.
that. We have
So what is the third one? I can't read that cover.
this. The third one is Windflower, but it's the like super saturated like the
Like the groovy.
the groovy super saturated like
yeah.
70s squiggly font. Like the
okay. Like
That's
yeah.
such a good way to describe that.
Okay, so that one is interesting. All right, so I'm gonna put, and I might adjust this a little
Of
bit
course,
once I
of
get them
course.
on there. So,
Yes, yes.
all right. So the Gothic one, that's the 4th one that I also can't read.
We're calling this Women Running from Peril, but yes,
Yes,
the Gothic one.
women running from peril. Like, let's get some Gothic romance in there. Like, that one is going to be probably like somewhere between the A and the B.
Okay.
We can go low A and then we might move it down to high B. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Ice Planet Barbarians.
Yes, the I
can't even believe you guys got the Ice Planet Barbarians.
Of course, we had to pick something to represent like over complicated digital art.
So Ice Planet Barbarians. I don't know if I should admit that I've read the Ice Planet Barbarians.
I'm told you should not. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
There is a lot going on. I'm pretty sure you can borrow them from Kindle Unlimited if you know.
Oh my god.
Oh, good.
Getting more people into this.
In the Ice Planet Barbarians, there's.
Chat
just
says
stay away
it's
from the
fine.
plot.
Chat says it's fine.
We'll stay
You can
away from the
admit
plot. There are more titillating covers in that era, but if we're talking about titillating covers, that one will have to be up there.
Are we talking like an A?
Oh, B, absolutely a B.
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 Okay.
Okay.
But Women Running from Peril is still above.
Yeah, because Women Running
busy
from
digital
Peril.
art. Okay.
Like,
it's iconic.
Yes, it's very iconic in a way that like the Windflower. So how are you describing the Windflower?
We're calling that like oversaturated, groovy, photorealistic art.
Okay, so that one is going to be just above the Ice Planet Barbarians.
Great.
Wait, does Ice Planet Barbarians? We've got the blue guys in there.
They're on there, yeah.
Okay. I should make the screen bigger.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hold on. I have this giant monitor, but I got to tell you,
Blue guy
it's
is
still
definitely
not
on
big.
the
It's
cover.
still not big enough to see the.
That's good. That worked.
Oh yeah, that's better. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, it looks.
I think he's getting cut off by like how it cropped the image, but yeah.
Yeah, stream is a little bit weird, but it's fine.
All right. I think I might give him a B. Put him between A and B because that definitely
up
is
here?
titillating for a little bit higher. If for I guess
Like low A minus.
low A, yeah.
Yeah.
Because like that is absolutely for people who are looking for a very specific monster bridegroomy sort of a reading experience, like that one definitely scratches a very specific itch.
Oh my gosh.
And
It's a
earlier
very
you were
kind
saying
way to describe that.
and you were saying flat, like the flat
A red,
outline
white,
list
and
book
royal
jacket,
blue.
that's a D.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stream, like what the heck is Twitch stream?
Oh, this is Chuck Tingle. This is we're just
Oh,
photo
Tingle. We'll
we're-
give him at least a C.
At least a C
Yeah.
for what are we calling
Yeah.
Chuck Tingle? We're calling it like expressionist photoshopping. Oh,
Willing to follow Chuck Tingle to many places.
We didn't know what Chuck Tingle to pick, so we picked Pounded in the Butt by a charity Twitch stream.
That sounds like iconic Chuck Tingle.
Yeah.
Okay, Promises. That looks
this is too much light Christian romance novel where the sky is on fire. There's some sort of climate disaster, and everything is just a giant yellow sun, and there is like a very stern preacher. But yes, that is blown out Christian romance novels.
at all tittillating.
Not at all titillating.
That is down there with red, white, and royal blue.
Lower than red, white, and lower and royal blue.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Chad is asking why the sky is always on fire in Christian romance. Don't know. The sun takes over the clouds.
The sun is on fire a lot.
Okay.
The last two.
Jane Eyre. So Jane Eyre, quite restrained. But you know, there are some hidden depths in that flavor of book.
Yeah.
So, you know, we'll stick that one in along with Twitch stream in a C. We'll have like C be
like that.
A category of extremes.
Yes. Where this is
fair. That's very fair.
Bottom of C is reserved for I don't know, president, sexy T-Rex, and a craftsman made that.
Yeah.
Yeah, extremes. And the last one we've got is sort of like 40s and 50s pulp illustration.
But just one little thing about the craftsman made that, like, there is something about the competence porn of that kind of like really well made book. So maybe we'll bump that one up to a B.
Low B under saturated but groovy.
And Boy Dates Girl, that can go there by Chuck Tingle.
Below Chuck Tingle or above Chuck Tingle?
Yeah, Chuck Tingle.
What's that?
Maybe below Chuck Tingle.
Below Chuck Tingle. Okay.
Because there's like nothing.
That is true
about that.
That is true. At least this is like self-aware.
That cover makes me feel like I'm eating a graham cracker.
Huh?
The graham cracker of book covers.
Yeah, it's like completely innocuous, bland. It does.
If that's a graham cracker, then what is this? Other than
saltine.
Saltine. Other than not how I wanted to spend my lunch break, but here we are.
I don't know.
But I do want to say,
this looks like the world's worst Grubhub ad.
But I do want to say, red, white, and royal blue is really, really delightful.
I don't really know it, but as I understand it, it is what if Barack Obama had a son who was gay and dated Prince Harry?
Yes.
Okay, good. Sounds great.
That's pretty accurate. Yes.
All right, so this is I like the two columns
Yeah,
here,
this is
and then
really good.
I think I want to swap
Oh,
the
swap.
Gothic and the Ice Planet Barbarians.
Oh, okay. So women running in peril have
Okay.
run to the bottom of A tier, and
Okay.
There are in fact
and our-
women running in peril in Ice Planet Barbarians.
True.
Sometimes they're running
Oh,
from the
yeah.
Ice Planet Barbarians. Sometimes they're running to the Ice Planet Barbarians.
But and so I like the like paintings. We have like the painting of peril.
Yeah.
And what tops that is like the digital art of sexy monsters. But what
Yes.
tops that? We're painting models in
clinch
various
cover.
stages of
It's
undress.
It's the
we
clinch
need to
cover of the
return to
bodice
this.
rippers of the iconic bodice rippers.
Exactly. Yeah,
Which-
we're ripping bodices.
Yeah.
We're doing 100 push-ups right before we take the reference photo. We're doing everything. We're hanging off of some sort of rope. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
A tree branch on our farm.
Oh my god. Oh yeah. Yeah, we almost included like cowboys until we just said that like
Oh, cowboys!
but
Yeah.
we are maybe arguing that the cowboy is just like the rural form of bodice
Version of-
ripper. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, we kind of we took cowboys out one to make it a odd number, so it would line up like this with one on top, hopefully, and also because
Yeah.
we saw like the cowboy is the cousin of this.
Yeah. So
Uh,
good.
Oh,
That is fair.
Daisy, chat's put together a summary of this tier list.
That's absolutely true. Death Laura says from ripping bodices to burning skis.
Skies.
Oh my god, skies.
Yeah, this tier list goes from ripping bodices to
Yeah.
burning skies. How pleasant is your 4 p.m.?
How pleasant is your 4 p.m.? Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah, official tier list. I think when you brought the mug out, I like go back and rewind the video to see the face I make to camera when you bring the
I
mug
know.
out at the beginning of the show.
I was like,
I've been waiting
oh
for
my
this.
god. I know, we were like, holy shit, this is gonna be great.
We talked for basically 2 hours, but that's all we got.
Yeah,
Interview
that's
done.
it. Hey, and Linda J. Lee, congratulations and welcome to the 4-hour club.
Welcome to the 4 Hours Club. Woo!
You guys, this has been so much fun. Thank
This
you
is
so
awesome.
much.
We need ladders
I
in
love-
chat for Linda, like more ladders.
Ladders in chat, GG's. One of like I think my favorite parts was your impromptu storytelling sessions where we got
Yes!
to hear your version of the story.
I would read a book. I would read a book of Grimm's fairy
this is so cool.
tales
Yeah.
where like people say "Hell's no." Like I would
Yeah.
read that book.
Yeah, it was really good.
So ladders in chat for Linda, everyone. Ponies in chat for Linda, apparently too. Ponies
yes.
and ladders in chat for
Okay,
Linda.
I'm not sure what ponies means here. Like after looking at some romance novel covers and thinking about some of the things that happen with ponies or on ponies.
No,
I don't know.
No,
in some
I
of
don't
the
know.
Western themed romances I've read,
it's the
I'm-
4-H pledge. It's okay.
it's very different then.
It's
Very,
not-
very different.
I don't know why it's happening, but I'm just letting folklore be emergent in the chat.
No, Death Loris has a train of thought. Okay, it's because you're in the 4-H club, the 4
hours.
club, and on
That
and
makes a lot
Thank
more
you
sense.
for translating what the hell chat is on about, Daisy.
yeah, and we also have a bot that will like auto prompt if you type in like exclamation point and a phrase, it will prompt like basically an inside joke from the show. And we did the 4-H pledge at one point, and the command to do that is exclamation point ponies. So
But
when
4-H
somebody types
Club
that,
gives you everyone who's been on
But-
for 4 hours.
yeah. So anyway, that's like the mechanic of the chat lore. Anyway,
All right,
that was amazing.
that was great.
We should go to bed.
We should go to bed, Linda.
was
Thank you so
amazing.
much for,
Thank you
for
Thank
surviving.
you.
Yeah.
God
And-
gives his greatest episodes to his sickest soldiers, but thank you for
Yeah,
surviving.
it's so true. Yeah.
And thank you
And
to your
sleepiest.
sleuths who pretty clearly did an amazing job. So
Okay. Should we say who they were?
yes.
It was the sleuth meeting was me and Caitlin Kinney and Carrie Kaliba.
I figured that Carrie was in there somewhere.
Carrie was
Had to be.
This tier list
This tier list is a
so
classic
Carrie.
Carrie. This is a classic
This
Carrie
is the most
tier list.
Carrie thing I've ever seen. It's because it's not just romance novels
Yeah.
or book jackets. It's something way more complicated.
Have a special emotional. Quilts have had meaning on many levels. Making quilts helped me to get a sense of my own space, sense of finding my way, sense of really working my way out of the labyrinth.